And with me today, I have Lisa Bartels. I am a National Board Certified Teacher, and I was the 2023 Colorado Congress of Foreign Language Teachers Teacher of the Year. And Lisa, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I also was a 2023 Teacher of the Year for the state of North Carolina, and I'm a National Board Certified Teacher in French.
Awesome. So I know a lot of people have seen my video series with tips and strategies for national board certification in world languages. And I have said over and over, I will not do one on component four. I hate it. It's the beast. And here I am doing a video on component four. So as all of my videos start, it's important to discuss and make sure you have a good handle on the 5 core propositions with the National Board for Professional Teaching Standards. Proposition number 1 is that teachers are committed to students and their learning. So no matter what component you're working on, you need to make sure that you are showing your commitment to kids and to their learning from wherever they're at to whatever their next step is.
Okay. Proposition 2 is that teachers know the subject they teach and how to teach those subjects to students. And that second part, how to teach those subjects to students, is going to really come through here in component 4. We're going to talk about that quite a bit in this video.
Then proposition 3, teachers are responsible for managing and monitoring students' learning. So it really puts you at the head of the classroom, understanding, okay, what's going on with students? What is the data I'm getting from what sources? And how can I use that data to improve student learning?
Okay, proposition 4. Teachers think systematically about their practice and learn from experiences. And so not only are you a competent and effective teacher in the classroom, but you are improving and you're looking at what's happening every day in your class. You're thinking about it, you're evaluating that data, and you're using it to improve your instruction and your student outcomes.
And then lastly, teachers are members of learning communities. So this gets back to you as a teacher and your own professional growth, making sure that teaching, you are still continually learning and growing in your craft.
And Erin, can I just say that I see you embodying that proposition 5 by stretching out of your comfort zone and doing this C4 video that you promised you would never do. But
Yes.
Here we are in community.
Never
Doing it
say
together.
never. Here we go. So let's dig into component 4. So Lisa, what is component 4 all about, and why do you think candidates dread it?
So candidates do dread component 4, and I think that's because it really has a different focus than the rest of your national board portfolio. It's different than the other components, especially C2 and C3 are really focused on your classroom practice and your delivery of instruction to students. Component 4 is a little different because it's a little bit more looking at the behind the scenes big picture and your philosophy, the philosophy you bring to your classroom practice. And the goal is that you're showing assessors how you collect data and how you then evaluate and use that data to improve student outcomes. So it's really about your decision making and those big picture behind the scenes pieces of your classroom practice.
Thanks. That's perfect. I've heard people say that you can kind of look at C4 as like being 2 mini components. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to approach it, especially if you feel daunted by C4 and you're reading through these instructions and you're thinking, how does it fit together? There's kind of 2 major pieces of it. The first piece is your generation and use of assessment data. And that's even the terminology that National Board uses as you're approaching C4. You can almost write that first part, that generation and use of assessment data piece of your portfolio separately. And then you can go back and approach the second part, which is selecting goals and meeting goals for yourself and your students.
So I think that's probably key. Like it's goals for the teacher and for the students.
For sure.
So let's go into more detail about each of those two mini components.
Mhm.
So the first one is the generation and use of assessment data. So what do you think the steps are for a
Mhm.
successful portfolio here?
So the first step is the same as it is for components 2 and 3, and that is to do a really deep dive into one of your classes. And you want to really dissect this class and know as much as you can about the students from many, many different data sources. So do that deep dive. And then based on your deep dive, you're looking for a trend. You're looking for something that multiple data sources are telling you that your students need related to their learning. Once you've identified that learning need or that trend, now you're going to design an assessment, a formative assessment to pinpoint exactly where your students are related to that area you've identified. Um, Another piece that's different, those first three pieces are similar maybe to components 2 and 3, but in component 4, there's the student self-reflection piece that is unique. And you need to really work with your students after that formative assessment or during and after it to
Mhm.
help the students to guide them in identifying their own learning goals and how they can improve. That is not something that comes naturally to students, so it requires coaching on your part. Then you deliver instruction, which you don't talk about a whole lot in C4. You're really talking about your generation of assessment data on that formative assessment and then how you use it. You'll talk about the instructional piece a little bit, but it's a little more of an overview rather than like the details of your instructional sequence that you would do in C3 and C2. So once you've designed that instruction and delivered it to students, then you design and deliver a summative assessment, and you analyze the results that show hopefully that your students have shown a lot of growth in this key area that you've focused on.
Perfect. I think that's super clear to break it down into those 6 steps. But also, I would imagine that as candidates work, there are some very clear things that could go wrong. So
For
let's
sure.
tackle those.
And it's because what National Board is looking for is a little different than what we usually do in our practice to show our effectiveness. Like if you get called into, or you have to go in and sit down and have an evaluation with your administrator, you're showing like, here's what I did in class and the kids did
Mhm.
well on it. Like that's kind of what you're looking for. And the principal's looking to see if the kids were engaged and if your instructional practices are sound. But National Board, I mean, they do want to see those things, but the focus is a little different. The first thing that they're really looking for is, are your instructional goals based on data from many sources? When you're talking to your administrator, your goal might be because, like, this is my department school, or just this is what I always do every year. And that may be true. But you need to show National Board that your selection of goals is deeper than that, and it's based on the data that you found from different sources. So you're looking for a lot of different data sources that tell the same story. So if you can find, go ahead.
I just want to speak to that. Like those
Mhm.
different sources, do you think that there is that they are specifically looking for quantitative, qualitative, or both?
In the C4 instructions, there's actually a few different areas that National Board suggests you draw data from.
Okay.
And I think their instructions are a bit general, where they say like from more than one of these sources.
Mhm.
But I would recommend that candidates pull at least a data point from each of the sources that National Board recommends, because then you're covering all the bases as far as meeting their expectations. And of course, we always look at data like students' grades. Most
Mhm.
of us have, you know, IEPs and special needs, like that sort of like official school documentation, maybe standardized testing scores. But you can also pull in data from student surveys, including students' own views of their learning styles and their preferences, their interests, their felt needs in the class. Talk to their past year's teachers. What was
Mhm.
unique or significant or different about this group? Another thing you can do is talk to teachers that students are going to. Like if your
Mhm.
high school students are feeding into a particular college, talk to the university professor and find out What do they see as needs for their beginning students coming in? What would they like to see high school students coming? Or if you're with younger students, the same sort of thing applies to talking to the feeder schools. So you're looking, that vertical alignment, both past teachers and future teachers could be data sources. Parents' views of their children or desires for their class could be another data source. And so you're looking for multiple data sources and different types of data sources. As you mentioned, quantitative, like testing scores, and then qualitative, like students' own
Feelings.
comments about their learning. And the main goal here is not just to show a lot of data. And I think that's where the pitfall comes in. You can write 3 pages about all the different data sources that you collected, and that's not going to score you well on the rubric, because the rubric is asking, how do you prioritize that data? How do you analyze it? So just data isn't enough. Okay. You're looking for data that tells a story or that highlights a need, and then that's what you're going to home in on for your portfolio focus.
Perfect. So once you have data that is not disjointed but fits together, how else could you go wrong? If you had the data piece, that's good.
Mm-hmm. Well, that data helps me identify a need for students, and then that need needs to drive my instructional delivery. So, I mean, of course, in a unit, we'll do all kinds of things, but the things you want to highlight in this, in your portfolio, are the activities and the assessment pieces that really give you information about these students related to this one focus point that you're trying to improve.
Perfect.
A third area where I see sometimes candidates struggle is underdeveloping this piece about student self-reflection, which is pretty unique in component 4. But if you look at the C4 rubrics, they ask you to show how students are engaged in their own learning, as partners in their own learning, that they have agency. Mm-hmm. And so giving kids an exit ticket where half of the kids write IDK on the exit ticket, or write I did good, those are not going to be convincing to your assessors. Developing student self-reflection, this is not something most students do naturally. So you're going to have to intentionally build self-reflection into your instruction. And I would recommend that teachers start working with this self-reflection piece before their featured unit, because your kids are going to need practice. You're going to see areas where maybe you can coach them in becoming more reflective on their own learning. And so then by the time you get to your C4 data that you're trying to collect and that you need, your kids will be better at it, and you'll be better at pulling it out of them.
Perfect. I was just thinking, seems like something like this is something that should be done well in advance.
Yeah, and intentionally, because I don't think this is something that is part of most of our curriculum.
No.
But to be an accomplished practitioner on the national board rubrics, you have to show that you're incorporating student self-assessment into, they're participating in their own learning.
Right. And this is a soft skill that will absolutely help them as they grow, being able 100%. To be reflective.
In fact, if you can show in your pre-component data that in your knowledge of students section that the kids want to improve in whatever the area is that you're working on, that's very powerful. Both, it's powerful to show the thread through your whole portfolio, mm-hmm. but also if the kids actually do want to be better at the thing you're working on, buy in more to that self-assessment and self-evaluation piece.
That's awesome. So Lisa, let's transition now into mini component 2, which is all about selecting your goals and then meeting them.
Yes, transition is the right word, because this, in a way, it's a kind of different focus, mm-hmm. or different part of component 4. And some candidates really do the first mini. They get it all written, and then they do the second one. You can do them almost as 2 separate pieces. So for this second mini component, you're going to choose 2 needs. One is a professional need that you have, and then the other one is a need that you see your students have. And just like everything else in National Board, your needs, both of the needs need to be based on evidence and based on data. It can be qualitative, it can be quantitative, but it can't just be something you pulled out of the air. You have to show why you identified this need, how you know it's a need, and what that's based on. Both of the needs you need to show how you pulled in outside resources outside of yourself and your own knowledge to meet them, whether that is like mental, like learning resources for you, learning resources for your students, collaboration, whether it's physical resources like technology or books or supplies. You have to show that you accessed a variety of different resources to pull to meet the needs. And then the third, and not to be overlooked, at the end, you have to show that students learned more, their learning was improved as a result of your efforts. So it's not enough just to like build some fabulous bookshelves and fill them with books. You need to show how the students use them to improve their own learning.
So it looks like showing that your work resulted in improved student learning, once again, requires data.
For sure. You're looking for, again, it can be qualitative, it can be quantitative, it can be student statements, it can be before and after data, but you've got to demonstrate student learning for this to be successful. A couple more requirements. Your professional needs to require, this is National Board's words, your advocacy, leadership, or collaboration to accomplish. So you're not just doing it by yourself, you're reaching outside the walls of your classroom. And your student need, it can be related to world language content, so it can be something related to our core subject area, but it doesn't have to be. It could be related to family engagement or socio emotional learning or some other aspect of student learning that are of student life that you see as a need in your class. It just has to result in improved student learning at the end.
And have data to back that up. Okay.
100%.
Great.
Data.
So with this mini component 2, where can people go wrong?
Well, we've kind of alluded to this, but probably the biggest error I see candidates get excited about their project, and a lot of times the projects are fabulous. You liked it, your students liked it, and it was like great and engaging. Your administration liked it, but if you don't show evidence that the students learned as a result, then it's not going to score well on the component, even if on the component for rubrics, even if it was fabulous.
And I think I want to underscore for anyone listening and watching that that's a big deal. You can have something that is great, but doesn't meet the rubric requirements.
In fact, I think that's, in my view, that's probably one of the most common reasons for low scores on component 4. And it's really frustrating to candidates when they're like, wait, I did this amazing thing. I pulled in all kinds of resources. I did something that's never been done in my school before. Parents loved it. It was on the news. Like my administration gave me accolades for it. That can all be true. It can be fabulous. But if you don't document and show evidence that students learned as a result, the assessors can't give you credit for it.
And when you look at it from a teaching perspective, like the work against the rubric, I mean, we have to admit that, okay, that's fair if I'm not meeting the requirements.
Yeah. So really go back to those rubrics and stay laser focused on what the rubrics are asking you to do. Like component 4 is so big, it's easy, I think, to get off track and kind of go down a rabbit hole. And you need, those rubrics are ground us and bring us back. So read the rubrics, read them again, tattoo them on your forearm or something so that you stay focused on what National Board is actually looking for.
Yeah, which segues nicely into our next piece, because I do think that a lot of people get to component 4 and they're like, this is so disjointed. It feels all over the place.
I mean, it can feel that way. The common thread is it's looking at how you collect and evaluate data for better student outcomes. That's the common thread. And you're kind of showing this in different ways. So you can show the we've referred to the 2 mini components. You can write them separately, and that does maybe feel a little disjointed. The common thread is that evaluation of data piece, but it's showing you evaluate it in your classroom instruction, you evaluate it in your own professional development, and you evaluate it in kind of the student need aspect. But it can be helpful to candidates to blend all the pieces of their component and make their C4 feel a little more cohesive.
So you're saying that's
And I
not
have a
required, but
not
it can be
required.
done.
And
Okay.
yeah, it's not required, but it can be beneficial because if you do kind of choose a common focus, then a lot of your data applies to all the parts of it. So the knowledge of students, that data you collected at the beginning, ends up applying to all the different pieces, and you don't have to sort of duplicate your efforts of showing the why. You show the why once. So one way you can do this is think back over the past like 18 months about professional development that you've participated in that has really impacted your teaching practice, something that really helped you be a better teacher. That could, and then think about why did you choose or seek out that professional development, and how did you implement it in the classroom? A lot of times that will give you a common piece where it's like, okay, I can develop a like sort of a unit assessment from beginning to end that shows the data, gives me the data I'm looking for around this theme. It obviously shows my own professional growth, and it also can highlight a student need. So that's one place you can look for a common theme throughout your portfolio. A second way to approach it is if you're looking at your class and you're like, my students are really struggling with X, and I don't know how to help them. And then going and finding that solution, that can give you a common thread. And so you write about how did you know they were struggling, what data showed you that, and then what did you do as an educator to, as a professional, to improve your practice that led to improved outcomes in the unit you taught, improved outcomes in your own professional life, and improved outcomes for the student need that you identified.
I,
Those are
lo-
just two things to think about as ways to tie it together.
I love that. So, again, anyone watching or listening, you can kind of blend those mini component one and twos together or keep them separate. And neither one is necessarily beneficial for scoring
Mm-mm.
higher on the rubric. They both
No,
can
that's
be
correct.
done.
Yeah.
So, just some parting thoughts, words of wisdom.
So, one thing to be aware of, in this component, your written commentary is only about 12 pages. It's actually shorter than C2 and C3's written commentary, but you're submitting up to 38 pages of evidence. And so a lot of what you submit is like
Data.
examples of data, and that could be student samples, it could be before and after data, it could be like in a chart form. But in this component, you really need to thoughtfully consider what you submit as supplemental documents, because those supplemental documents are more than half of your portfolio, and assessors really are going to look at them. And you want to choose students, you want to choose samples that paint the picture you're trying to paint. So whatever your focus is for C4, the documents you put there, maybe if I'm an assessor, I look at it and I'm like, I can already see what the student need is because it's evident there in the data. And then I read your commentary and it's like, yeah, the candidate identified this based on these samples that they're showing me. So don't overlook how integral these student samples or this data is, the supplemental documents are to your C4 portfolio.
So, data being strong, and then the written commentary tying the data together.
Exactly, exactly. And the written commentary should show your analysis of the data that you've demonstrated. So you don't need to talk about it a lot. You don't need to describe it because it's right there for the assessors to look at. You're saying, like, this piece of data shows me this. I know this from it because dot dot dot, and I'm going to do this as a result. Here's the instructional decision making I made based on the data that you can see. So you really, that goes to analyze, don't describe. Most of your written commentary should be, you just reference those data points briefly enough that assessors know what you're talking about, and then tell what that data told you, how you knew it, and what decisions you made as a result based on your expertise as a language instructor.
Perfect.
Yeah, and we've talked about this a lot, but the biggest error I think candidates make in C4 is doing something fabulous, but not showing how it impacted student learning.
Perfect. Thank you. So, viewers, please see the links below for the following. I generally put a link to National Board webinars, and they kind of come and go with their offerings. So sometimes there's a lot, sometimes there's not many. I also have videos that are deep dives into component 1, component 2, component 3, and then there will be a link just to some general info from the National Board. And we want to thank you for watching. If you have a question, you can absolutely put it in the comments below the videos, or definitely connect with us on social media or via email if you have a question that we can respond to. And in parting, we want to say you can check out our other resources. There are also links in the video notes below. I have a couple books, and Lisa has her website with lots of great things for French teachers. And we actually both
all languages.
Yes. And we actually both have a book coming out that we have co-authored, and that is being published by Routledge. It will be out most likely in February of 2026. And it's Achieving National Board Certification in World Languages. And it's full of tips and strategies to achieve certification. And we hope that this book will be your portable mentor for the process.
100%.